Breaking today, the death of a true Great Britain. The New Culture Forum has announced it is with deepest sorrow that we announce the passing of Peter Whittle, founder and director of the New Culture Forum. Peter passed away yesterday evening, surrounded by his loved ones. It is hard to overstate the impact Peter and the New Culture Forum have had on Britain's cultural and political landscape since he founded the NCF 20 years ago. Peter's courage, passion, integrity, wit, and intellect inspired millions in Britain and around the world to think critically, challenge cultural orthodoxies, and champion free speech. The NCF will continue to honour Peter's vision and values. Rest in peace. Now, this is going to be a shock to so many of you. Certainly, for me, it's personally devastating. I became friends with Peter quite recently, actually, about 2 years ago, after we met when I was at rock bottom at Laura Dodsworth's wedding. And he was an absolutely wonderful man, and he had invited me to his wedding earlier in the year, which then sadly had to be brought forward when he got the terrible, terrible news. That was the last time I saw him in what felt like a really positive appearance just a few weeks ago. So this sudden decline has shocked us all. But Peter, as you would expect, was incredible and stoic and brave till his last breath. Indeed, I want to show you now his last public speech made this month on the 4th of November. It was inspirational. Watch.
If you remember the line from Twelfth Night, William Shakespeare, when love goes, what happens next? It's usually tears and a journey. And I think that that's what actually happened in my case. But this is what gives me hope, actually. We started the New Culture Forum 20 years ago. I wouldn't have thought, I would say to you, I wouldn't have thought we would be having a locals branch conference meeting about London 20 years later, this well attended, and with the kind of influence that we increasingly have on the political sphere in this country. So that's down to you bothering. And I want to thank you for that. And, you know, just whatever you do, don't give up. Don't give up.
We won't, Peter. But what is so tragic is it does feel like we have been robbed from a man who had yet to reach his peak, and he was going to be such an important part in terms of the salvation of the United Kingdom over the next few years. Now, of course, Peter Whittle in his past was the right-hand man of Nigel Farage, and indeed, when he was in the London Assembly, and this clip I want to show you is from 5 years ago, one of his greatest hits, he always had the measure of Sadiq Khan.
What I do feel very passionate about is somebody basically coming in and essentially saying, I am going to, or this commission is going to start, as you put it, deciding which legacies should be celebrated and which shouldn't be. No one has the right to do that. And I think it is extraordinary at a time when this city is facing almost extinction level event economically, largely as well down to many of the things you've done, such as congestion charge and all of that, that actually now you start attacking its heritage. And the councils that you refer to are Labour ones, 130 of them up and down the country. We all know, do we not, Mr Mayor, that your party doesn't really like patriotism, doesn't really like Britain very much, wouldn't you say?
That's quite a slur, but coming from you it's no surprise. We're a very patriotic party. I'm very proud of the achievements.
Disgraceful, Chair. Will you reprimand that Assembly member? That's an absolute disgrace.
No,
he should be immediately reprimanded. That's an insult to the Mayor. It's an insult to Labour members of this Assembly.
No. Listen, Mr Mayor.
Yes.
At the very time when this city is facing what it's facing, it is extraordinary that you are now concentrating on setting up something to revise its past history.
Well, Chair, that's a characterisation I don't accept.
Right, well, Mr. Mayor, all I can say is that the one consolation is that it's very unlikely that anyone's going to be putting up a statue to you.
6 months ago, here on Outspoken, after Douglas Murray was ambushed on Newsnight, Peter Whittle proved how brilliant he was at calling out the regime media. Dan Wootton Outspoken is available as a podcast too. So to listen or watch us on the go, wherever you are, then please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as a personal favour to me, please rate and review, as it really helps our independent show.
I think the thing about this, though, is what it showed was why programs like Newsnight are not watched anymore. They're terrible, right? They're terrible. They learn nothing. I mean, Douglas, frankly, I think they were lucky to have him actually on the program. And when they got these three people, Matthew Staplin, whom I've been up against a number of times, and Joe Swinson, or whatever her name is, I don't know who the other person was, but these are non-entities. These are political non-entities. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, and, of no consequence whatsoever. And to see them kind of trying to maul him, in the safety of this bubble was quite pathetic. I mean, I think that despite, what we saw there, I mean, Douglas gets his points across very, very well. And I think there'll be a lot of people nodding along with it. But I mean, fact is, this is the BBC all over, not just, I have to say, the BBC now, as you know well, that essentially BBC might be the leader of the pack, but you've got Sky, which is pretty much the same now, ITV, they've got, all of them have got agendas. So they sort of think they've got, they're looking for a gotcha moment. In that case with Douglas there, Nick Watt, he was sort of saying, you said we need less Islam. Point that Douglas was making and has made before, and I would agree with entirely, is, look, the more Islamic demographic you have, the greater the chance of extremism, the greater the chance of terrorist attacks, the greater the chance. It's just simple fact. It's common sense.
Peter's final appearance on Outspoken just 3 months ago was to promote his brilliant documentary about the decline of Bournemouth, as he called out Islamist shows of dominance.
But in the case of Bournemouth, people have actually tried to do something. There is a kind of citizens group that's been formed, a security group, to try to patrol the town. And, now that we've highlighted the case, hopefully more will be done. The piece of clip you're showing here of this call to prayer.
I mean, what did you make of it? Because this has gone viral across the world, Peter, this clip.
Well, because, yes, this happened, I think, just only last week or so. So, in other words, after we'd done this program. But when you look at it, all I see there is basically a show of dominance. I see, why cannot people be told, you can go to your local mosque, or if you can go to the mosque if you're here for the day. There are mosques in Bournemouth. Go there and pray. Why do you have to do this outside? No other religion does this. Why do you have to do this? And it is, I would say, like it's increasingly the case in European countries, a show of presence, a show of dominance. And yes, I don't like to see it. I don't like to see it. And I think that if you were down there on the beach with your family, I think your instinctive reaction, which then many people then cover up, remember, but your instinctive reaction would be one of discomfort. Why are you doing this? Why are you bringing in something to a completely sort of neutral and innocent setting of this, seaside town?
And I'm joined now by Connor Tomlinson, who is, of course, the host of Deprogrammed, a New Culture Forum podcast. And Connor, I'm so glad you're here today. I mean, I'm in black because we got this news this morning and I just felt I had to do something. And my condolences for you, not just in terms of the loss of Peter, but you also discovered overnight that your 79-year-old grandfather, there he is, Londoner, born and bred, had also passed away. So thank you for getting through the show, and the floor is yours to pay tribute to both men.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the slightly more cynical or somber tone. I'm usually a bit funnier on your show, Dan, but not today. It's a sign that an entire generation is passing away, and it's the greatest tragedy that's the best one that they're going first. As I put in my words on Peter's passing on X, we at the New Culture Forum have known that Peter hasn't been well for quite some time. He kept it to himself. He's a very stoic man and a showman through and through. He was always more a Soho man than a Barra boy when he was cavorting with the UKIP crowd. So public appearances were of great importance to him, but he didn't tell anyone until October that he was unwell, and he actually made it past the day that the doctors had given him, so we got more time with him than we expected. But he was rushed into hospital in the last week or so and couldn't make the Smith lecture the other night, unfortunately, the sort of annual lecture, and Rafe gave a really fitting tribute to him in his absence, not knowing how little time we had left. But we've known he's been unwell for quite some time, and obviously the conversation has been, how do we continue NCF in his honour? Because Peter is one of the few men that I've met in my time in politics who is chiefly concerned with legacy rather than the present, because he, again, has been one of the few men who has paid opportunities forward and tried to cultivate not just a new discourse around culture rather than just economics, as was the time in the early 2000s, but also this ecosystem of young people who are really concerned about their country and giving them opportunities to voice those concerns. And it's been with Harrison Pitt, Charlie Downs, myself, Lewis Brackpool, even Poppy Coburn got her start at NCF before she went onto the Telegraph and now appears on Newsnight.
But first, as we get older, you notice it. After a cold day, hard workout, even a long week, recovery just isn't as quick as it used to be, right? That bounce back factor matters. And it turns out the secret isn't luck, it's stem cells. Your body's built-in repair crew. With age, that system slows down. Fewer cells, weaker signals, slower recovery. That's exactly why Qualia created Qualia Stem Cell. Think of it this way. Your cells are powerful. Qualia Stem Cell helps keep them that way. It's crafted with nature's heavy lifters, sea buckthorn, royal jelly, and more to support your body's natural repair system so you can keep moving, healing, and thriving. You don't have to accept slowing down. This is about supporting better aging by reactivating the systems that help you bounce back. And it's refreshingly simple. You take it just 4 days a month. So if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, whether it's after a tough workout, getting sick, or just the wear and tear of life, this is for you. Qualia Stem Cell was designed to support your body's natural repair systems, helping you heal, recover, and keep going strong. And right now, you can try it for up to 50% off at qualialife.com/Dan. And here's a bonus. Use the code Dan for an additional 15% off your order. So that's QUALIA life.com/Dan. Your body's built to repair itself. Qualia just helps it do it that better. And a big thanks, by the way, to Qualia for sponsoring this episode of Outspoken. But now, back to the show.
And so Peter has... We've had these conversations about how to honour him, and being frank with everyone, I hope I don't get in trouble with my NCF colleagues here, we are not sure what the actual future of NCF is yet, because it's impossible to imagine NCF without Peter, because he built it, he's the central figure. I mean, the main show is called Whittle, for crying out loud. And politics and the world is all the poorer for it. And the same goes for my granddad, which, look, you know, I'm a stone-hearted person, but it's been a rough day. And much like Peter, you know, born in London, brought up around the same area, and they've seen the country disfigured over their lifetimes. And my granddad, you know, Peter didn't have any children, but my granddad, 4 kids, 6 grandkids. We were hoping he might meet his first great-grandchild next year, but not meant to be. And you could set your watch to any time I dropped in for a coffee, how quickly the conversation would come around to, have you seen the state of the country? Have you seen how this mob are running the place? You know, there's a reason that that fence has been put up outside Parliament to prevent revolution, because my granddad would have been knocking the door down the first one. And he was very worried about the fact that very few people of his age who have made such a mess of things care about cleaning it up. So the only thing we can do is continue in their stead. I mean, Peter was a guest on your show, Dan. My granddad watched it all the time, not just when I was on. So it's, you know, it's a testimony to your skills as a broadcaster rather than mine, I think. And he actually, ironically, he got up at 5 o'clock in the morning this morning, mopped the floors, sat down with a cup of tea, and put YouTube on. I have no idea what he was watching, but there's half a chance it was either something from me or something from you.
Let's hope it was Tomlinson talks.
Well, yeah. But the only way we can honour these people is by continuing to act on the concerns that they feel, that they hold quite deeply, but that they've felt for a very long time no one else shares. And if for nothing else, if we go down with a ship, if it's all for naught, we try and save something in honour of them.
Indeed. Very well put, Connor. It is just worth looking at how Peter Whittle has done something that maybe many people thought would be impossible. He has united the right today in grief. I want to take you through some of the tributes, because what you'll notice is these come from all parts of the spectrum, which I think is a testament to Peter, given how divided the right is. Tom Slater posted from Spiked Online, so sad to hear of Peter's passing. A man who truly left his mark, was always tremendous fun and a Londoner through and through. My deepest condolences to his family, friends and colleagues. From Colin Brazier, Peter was someone who saw a world disappearing before his eyes and decided to do something about it. A great and honourable man. Paul Embry on the left. This is very sad. I had the pleasure of being interviewed by Peter on a couple of occasions. A very decent man. From the Free Speech Union, we are very sorry to hear about the death of Peter Whittle. Many members of the Free Speech Union are fans of Peter's work with the New Cultural Forum and its trenchant defence of free speech. Our thoughts are with Peter's loved ones at this sad time. Julia Hartley-Brewer of Talk TV. This is very sad news. Peter Whittle was a genuinely lovely man who cared passionately about his country. A great loss. My condolences to his family and loved ones. Maya Tusi in the independent media. Our good friend Peter Whittle passed away last night. He was one of the kindest men I knew in Westminster's political and cultural circles. A formidable and critical thinker whose New Cultural Forum made a huge impact. We at 2CTV will miss you. From Martin Daubney at GB News. Desperately sad news and way too soon. One of the sharpest minds you'll ever meet. Debonair, handsome, charming, erudite. Peter will be so sadly missed by friends, colleagues and country. R.I.P. legend. And from Alison Pearson of the Daily Telegraph. Britain is better for Peter Whittle having lived. His death deprives our country of one of its most brilliant, courteous and debonair defenders. Such sad news. May his example inspire us to fight for what matters as Peter did with every breath. From Rupert Lowe of Restore Britain, desperately sad news about Peter Whittle. He was a good man. From Lawrence Fox of Reclaim, what a huge loss. Rest in peace to one of the vanishingly few genuine gentlemen in the political and cultural arena. Peter was always there, always put others first, and will remain an example to us all. Godspeed, dear friend. From Carl Benjamin of Lotus Eaters, I am terribly saddened to hear about the passing of Peter. He was a stalwart of the Patriot movement, complete gentleman and wonderful chap to be around. I have always had a lot of time for Peter in the New Culture Forum. My thoughts are with them in the wake of this devastating news. And then from Reform UK, Lee Anderson's really sad news. One of my favourite interviews since being an MP was with Peter, a desperately sad day. And from Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, desperately sorry to hear this tragic news. Peter was so committed, so thoughtful, so passionate in his work and such a patriot. He will be much missed by family and friends and a loss to us all. And so I think, Connor, that is a testament, isn't it, when you look at all sides of the political right in the UK coming together to mark this loss.
It is. And I'm sure Peter would have been honoured by that. And I hope what I'm about to do isn't graceless, Dan. But it does annoy me to see Richard and Lee post that. Not because they're particularly guilty of this, but I must say that Peter put a lot of faith in reform, actually. They'd asked him to be a candidate before at the last election, and he had declined just because he didn't think he was right for it at the time anymore. He spent a lot of time in the London Assembly. He thought that his work was better spent on New Culture Forum. But after the election, he invited a lot of reform spokespeople on the NCF onto Whittle to talk to him, including Zia Yusuf, including Lena Cunningham. We'd invited Lee Anderson, by the way, and Lee Anderson had agreed to do deprogrammed and then scheduled it multiple times and allowed it to fall through. But Zia Yusuf and Lena Cunningham in particular, they had accepted and then committed to a date and then let Peter down multiple times because they didn't want to go on the New Culture Forum because they were afraid it was too far right. So perhaps allow this to be a lesson. It turns out that you can keep putting things off until the people who would slander someone like Peter might think it's respectable to do. You can keep putting it off and letting someone like that down who has had your back. Or you can accept the opportunity when it's given to you. And I advocate for doing the latter and not being a coward, because it turns out that you can keep putting it off and then eventually that interview never gets done because the man is gone. So perhaps your tributes, I appreciate the tributes for Peter. I'm sure Peter's family appreciates it. Everyone at the NCF appreciates it. But I will note that not all of the people, not all the parties, etc., always had Peter's back when he had theirs. And so perhaps allow this to be an example to have the back of your friends rather than fearing having negative opinions for associating with them from your enemies. Perhaps have a little bit of courage. That's maybe one of the things that people should take away from Peter's passing.
Couldn't agree more. And I think you've actually put that really appropriately. And they won't get that opportunity again to sit down with Peter Whittle, you know, and that is a lost opportunity for them. And I think it should be a wake-up call. But Connor, massive condolences about your double loss today. Thank you for still being here. It was so important to pay tribute to both Peter Whittle and your late grandfather as well. So thank you so much. Very sad day. Okay. It's time to reveal our worst Briton in the world this week. And your nominees: from Monday, Zach Polanski, the Green Party leader; on Tuesday, Bob Villan; on Wednesday, Rachel from Accounts; and on Thursday, David Lammy. To your feedback. Ollie Locke 987 says, Lammy wants to stop trial by jury. That is straight out of the dictatorship textbook. Colin Roscoe Hawksworth says, Lammy, because budgets come and budgets go, but to stop using trial by jury is to take away a right that is just wrong and very worrying for the future of British justice. Blasting Weevil 2968 says, Lammy should be sectioned. He is clearly insane trying to remove a jury trial. Why? So that they can pay corrupt judges more to let people off. The whole point of a jury is that no one person can be bought. Yark Pure Blood says, Pascal Robinson Foster, Bob Villan from the mean streets of Norwich tops the 4 this week. But Data 7 says, Rachel Reeves' big day, but then Kemi Badenoch blew out her candles and nicked the cake. Okay, your results are in. And I'm going to be honest with you, we've had over 50,000 votes, and it wasn't even close this week. In 4th position, with 7% of the vote, Bob Villan. In 3rd position, with 8% of the vote, Zach Polanski. The runner-up, with 13% of the vote, David Lammy. But the worst Briton in the world this week, even her own relatives have come out against this budget with 72% of the vote. It is Rachel Reeves. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.